Why would my own father kick us out of my beach house and think there would be no consequences? He said it was his turn to party there with his friends and told us to get a hotel. I agreed calmly and made one quiet call that unraveled his plans before sunset. As the story unfolds, take a moment to like, hit the hype button, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive him or walk away? The living room smelled like sea salt and old furniture polish. Nora was unpacking groceries in the kitchen, and I could hear our kids splashing in the shallow tide just beyond the deck. We'd driven 4 hours to get here, and I'd spent the last week clearing my schedule so we could finally use the place. The beach house had been in my name for 3 years now, bought with money I'd saved while my father told me I was wasting it on coastal fantasies. 3 years of planning, 3 years of mortgage payments, 3 years of telling myself that this place was ours, truly ours, and that we'd make memories here that would last a lifetime. Then he walked in. Arthur Gardill entered like he owned the room. White polo shirt, aviator sunglasses pushed up into his thinning hair, holding a cooler in one hand and his phone in the other. He didn't knock. He didn't call ahead. He just appeared, grinning like he'd won something, like this was all part of some game I hadn't realized we were playing. "Evan," he said, dropping the cooler by the couch with a heavy thud. "Change of plans." I was folding a beach towel, the same yellow one we'd bought last summer. "What do you mean?" "I invited some buddies down for the weekend. Old crew from the marina. We're gonna grill, play cards, you know? Real energy." He said it like I wouldn't understand. Like my life was somehow less vibrant than his, less worthy of this space. "So, you're gonna need to find a hotel." Nora turned from the kitchen, her hands still wet from rinsing strawberries. Water dripped onto the tile floor. "Excuse me?" Arthur waved her off with the casual dismissiveness he'd perfected over decades. "Just for a couple nights. Evan knows how it is. I raised him to share, didn't I?" He looked at me with that same expression he'd used my whole life, half smirk, half dare, daring me to push back, knowing I never would. "Besides, it's my turn now. You've had this place all summer." I hadn't. We'd used it twice. Once in May for a long weekend that got cut short by rain, and once in July when the kids got sick and we spent most of the time inside. But facts had never mattered much to Arthur when he'd already decided on his version of reality. "Dad, we just got here." "And I'm here now," he said, louder. His voice filled the room the way it always did, commanding attention, demanding accommodation. "Look, you're good at organizing things, right? Book a room, expense it or whatever, I'll pay you back." He wouldn't. We both knew that. He'd said the same thing about the lawnmower he borrowed 2 years ago, the tools he took from my garage last Christmas. "My friends are already on their way. They'll be here in an hour." Nora stepped into the room, drying her hands on a dish towel. "Arthur, this is our family vacation. We planned this weeks ago. The kids have been looking forward to it." He looked at her like she'd interrupted a meeting, like her words were just background noise, inconvenient but ultimately irrelevant. "Nora, sweetheart, this is between me and my son. Evan gets it. Right, Evan?" I didn't answer immediately. I set the towel down on the armrest and looked at him. Really looked at him. Same broad shoulders, though they slumped a bit more than they used to. Same voice that used to fill rooms when I was a kid, that used to make me feel small just by its volume. Same absolute certainty that his presence was more important than anyone else's plans. Same man who'd shown up uninvited to my college graduation party and spent the whole time talking about his achievements. Same man who'd criticized my career choices at every turn while asking me for money when his investments went south. Same man who treated my life like an extension of his own, something to be borrowed and used and returned when he was done with it. "You want us to leave?" I said quietly. "I'm asking you to be flexible." He clapped me on the shoulder, his hand heavy, familiar. "Come on, don't make it awkward." Behind him, I could see our daughter's bright yellow bucket sitting by the sliding door. I could hear my son laughing outside, his voice carrying on the ocean breeze. Nora was staring at me, waiting to see what I'd do. I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her jaw was set. She was waiting for me to stand up for us, to say no, to finally draw a line. And I could see in her eyes that she expected me to do exactly what I'd always done. Nothing. I smiled. Not a real smile. The kind I used in meetings when someone interrupted me and didn't realize they'd just made a mistake. The kind that meant I was done talking and ready to document everything that happened next. "Okay," I said. Arthur blinked, clearly surprised by how easy this was. "Okay? We'll get a hotel." Nora opened her mouth, but I raised a hand slightly. Not much, just enough. She caught it. She'd learned to read my signals over 16 years of marriage, and this one meant, "Trust me, not now. Let this play out." Arthur's grin returned, bigger now, triumphant. There we go. That's my boy. I knew you'd understand. He pulled out his phone and started texting, already moving on, already planning his party like we'd never been here. I'll keep the place clean. Mostly clean. You know how it is? I knew exactly how it was. He'd leave trash in the recycling, burn marks on the deck from his grill, maybe a stain on the couch from spilled drinks. And when I mentioned it later, he'd laugh it off, tell me I was being uptight, remind me that it's just stuff and family is what matters. I didn't say anything else. I just walked outside, called the kids in, and started packing the car. Their protests cut through me, but we just got here. You promised we could stay all week. I gave them the parent speech about plans changing, about being flexible, about how sometimes life doesn't work out the way we expect. All the things I'd been telling myself for 44 years. Nora followed me onto the deck, her voice low and tight. Evan, what are you doing? Getting a hotel. You're just letting him do this? I closed the trunk carefully, making sure the latch clicked. The sound was satisfying, final. For now? For now? She stepped closer, lowering her voice even more. He just kicked us out of our own house. I know. And you're okay with that? I turned to face her. The sun was starting to dip, casting long shadows across the driveway. Inside, I could hear Arthur laughing on the phone, already acting like he owned the place, like he'd won whatever game he thought we were playing. I'm not okay with it, I said, but I'm not going to fight him here. Not in front of the kids, not while he's got an audience coming. Nora studied my face. Her eyes narrowed slightly, the way they did when she was trying to figure out if I was planning something or just avoiding confrontation like I usually did. You have that look. What look? The one you get at work when someone thinks they outsmarted you. I didn't confirm or deny it. I just opened the car door and waited for the kids to climb in. They were confused, asking why we were leaving so soon, why Grandpa was staying without us. My daughter's voice cracked with disappointment. My son kept asking if they'd done something wrong. I told them we'd explain later, that sometimes plans changed, that sometimes adults made decisions that didn't make sense to kids, that we'd still have a good vacation, just in a different place, all lies, all truths, all the messy space in between. Arthur stepped onto the porch as we pulled out. He waved, grinning, shouting something about how we'd laugh about this someday. His friends were pulling up behind us, 3 cars full of loud voices and coolers. One of them honked, a cheerful blast that felt like mockery. I waved back, kept my face neutral, kept my voice calm when my daughter asked one more time why we had to leave. Nora sat beside me in the passenger seat, arms crossed tightly. Evan, I'm handling it. How? I didn't answer. I just drove toward town, my phone sitting in the cup holder, screen dark. Behind us, music started playing from the beach house, loud enough to hear from the road, loud enough to carry across the properties, to disturb the neighbors, to violate at least 3 different ordinances I could name off the top of my head. The trunk had closed while the music started behind us, and I'd already decided what came next. I'd spent 16 years in HR, 16 years learning that the best way to deal with someone who refuses to follow rules isn't to yell at them, isn't to fight them, isn't to meet their aggression with your own. It's to document everything and let the system do what it's designed to do. Arthur thought I was soft. He thought I was a pushover. He thought that decades of me backing down meant I always would. He was about to learn the difference between being accommodating and being strategic, the difference between keeping the peace and keeping score, the difference between his son and a man who'd finally had enough. The hotel check-in desk smelled like disinfectant and synthetic lavender. The clerk apologized twice for the limited availability, apparently half the coast was booked for some fishing tournament, and handed me a key card for a room on the 3rd floor. The kids were tired, dragging their feet across the lobby carpet, leaving trails in the worn fibers. Nora was silent, her jaw set in that way that meant she was holding back what she really wanted to say. I unlocked the door and let everyone in. 2 double beds, a view of the parking lot, a faint hum from the air conditioning unit that cycled on and off with mechanical regularity. Not the beach house, not even close. The room had that generic hotel feeling, beige walls, abstract art that meant nothing, of furniture that had seen 1,000 strangers. Dad, why did Grandpa make us leave? My daughter asked, dropping her backpack by the closet. Her voice was small, confused in that way kids get when the adults in their lives stop making sense. He wanted to spend time with his friends, I said. But it's your house. I know. So why didn't you say no? I didn't have a good answer for her. Not one that a 10-year-old would understand. Not one that would explain the complex dynamics of a lifetime of backing down, of choosing peace over confrontation, of being the reasonable one while everyone else took what they wanted. So I told her we'd go to the arcade down the street after dinner, and that seemed to satisfy her. My son was already sprawled on the bed, flipping through channels, stopping briefly on a cartoon before moving on, the remote clicking in his hands with practiced efficiency. Nora pulled me into the bathroom and closed the door. The space was small, forcing us close together. I could see the anger in her eyes, barely contained. "Evan, what the hell is going on?" I leaned against the sink, arms crossed. "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean. You're not acting like yourself." "I'm acting exactly like myself." "No," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut. "You're acting like you always do when someone pushes you around. You smile, you nod, you let it happen, and then you're mad about it later, but you never actually do anything. You just stew in it and expect me to watch you suffer in silence." I looked at her, really looked at her, at the frustration etched in the lines around her mouth, the disappointment in her eyes. "You think I'm not doing anything? Are you?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked past her, back into the room, and stepped onto the small balcony. The ocean was barely visible from here, just a thin line of blue between buildings and palm trees. I could hear seagulls in the distance, their cries mixing with the sound of traffic below. The sun was lower now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the kind of sunset that should have felt romantic, but instead just felt hollow. Nora followed me outside. The balcony was barely big enough for both of us. "Evan." "This isn't the first time," I said quietly, watching a couple walk through the parking lot below, hand in hand, laughing about something I couldn't hear. "I know." "Do you?" I turned to face her. "Because I don't think you do. I don't think anyone does." She frowned, pulling her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. "What are you talking about? Every family dinner, every holiday, every single time we're around him, it's the same thing. He makes a joke at my expense. He talks over me. He tells me I'm too soft, too careful, too corporate. Like those are character flaws instead of just who I am. And I let him, because that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to keep the peace. I'm the reasonable one. That's my role in the family dynamic." "Evan, he called me his boy today," I continued, my voice steady but carrying an edge I rarely let show. "Like I'm still 12. Like I haven't been paying my own bills for 20 years. Like I didn't buy that house myself with money I saved while he was telling me it was a waste, that I should invest in something practical like he would." Nora's expression softened, the anger draining away to reveal something closer to understanding. "I didn't realize it bothered you this much." "It doesn't bother me," I said. "It's just a pattern. And patterns can be adjusted. Patterns can be broken if you know where to apply pressure." She studied my face, her eyes searching mine for something. "What does that mean?" I pulled out my phone and leaned against the balcony railing. The metal was warm from the afternoon sun. "It means I'm going to handle it. Evan, if you're planning something—" "I'm not planning anything," I said. "I'm just making a call." "To who?" I didn't answer. I scrolled through my contacts, found the number I needed, and pressed dial. It rang twice before someone picked up. Professional, efficient. "Coastal Property Management. This is Caleb." "Hi, Caleb. This is Evan Gardill. I own the property at 1247 Shoreline Drive." "Oh, hey, Evan. Everything okay?" His voice had that practiced friendliness that people in service industries develop, but there was genuine recognition there. We'd spoken before about property maintenance, about the trees that needed trimming last year, about the storm shutters. "Not exactly," I said. "I'm calling to report a potential violation of the guest occupancy limits and noise ordinances. My father is currently hosting an unauthorized gathering at my property without my consent." There was a pause, long enough that I could hear him processing what I'd said. "Your father?" "Yes." "And you're the legal owner?" "Correct. My name is on the deed. I've been paying the association fees for 3 years." Another pause, longer this time. I could almost hear him pulling up my file, verifying the information. "Okay. Can you provide details?" I did, calmly, methodically. The way I would document an HR issue at work: facts, timeline, observable behaviors. I explained the timeline, how I'd arrived with my family for a planned vacation, how Arthur had ordered us to leave without warning or discussion, how he'd invited multiple guests without notifying me or the association. I mentioned the noise already audible from the road as we left. I noted the number of vehicles I'd seen pulling into the driveway, at least 3 cars, possibly more on the way. Caleb listened without interrupting. I could hear him typing, taking notes. When I finished, he asked, "Do you want us to send someone?" "I think that would be appropriate." We'll have an inspector out there within the hour. I'll call you back with an update once we've assessed the situation. Thank you. I hung up. Nora was staring at me. Her expression caught somewhere between shock and something that might have been respect. You just reported your own father. I reported a violation, I said. There's a difference. I didn't report him as a person. I reported actions that violated clearly established rules that I agreed to follow when I purchased the property. Evan, he thinks he can do whatever he wants because I've never stopped him before. He thinks I'm too soft to push back. He's been operating under that assumption for decades. He's wrong. She opened her mouth, then closed it. After a moment, she shook her head. He's going to be furious. Probably. And you're okay with that? I looked out at the horizon, where the sun was almost gone now, just a sliver of light against the water. The parking lot below was starting to empty out. Families heading to dinner, couples strolling toward the boardwalk. Normal people doing normal vacation things while my life tilted into something different. I'm done being the reasonable one, I said. Nora didn't respond. She just stood there beside me, her hand resting on the railing. Below us, the parking lot was quiet. A family walked toward their car, laughing about something. The father was carrying a toddler on his shoulders. The mother held the hand of an older child. Normal people having a normal vacation. Do you remember last Thanksgiving? I asked suddenly, the memory surfacing unbidden. She looked at me. What about it? He told everyone at dinner that I got my job because the company needed to fill a diversity quota. Said they wanted someone non-threatening in HR. Made it sound like I was hired to be harmless, like some kind of corporate mascot instead of someone with actual qualifications and 15 years of experience. I remember. Her voice was quiet now. And I laughed. I actually laughed, like it was a joke. Like it didn't matter that he just told my entire family, your parents, my cousins, everyone, that I didn't earn my position, that I was just a checkbox on some corporate form. Evan, and Christmas 2 years ago, he told the kids that their presents from us were practical, but his gifts were the fun ones. Undermined us right there in front of them, like we're the boring parents who don't know how to have a good time, like the educational toys and books we carefully selected meant nothing compared to his video games and gadgets that'll be forgotten in a month. He was just being... And my birthday last year, remember? He showed up 3 hours late to the restaurant. We'd made reservations weeks in advance. The kids were starving. The waitstaff kept asking if we wanted to order, and he finally arrives, doesn't apologize, just sits down and starts talking about his golf game like we've all been waiting there specifically to hear about his birdie on the 7th hole. Then he left before dessert because he had an early tea time the next morning, didn't even stay for the cake. Nora was quiet for a moment. I didn't realize you were keeping track. I'm not keeping track, I said. I'm just remembering. And I'm realizing that this isn't just about the beach house. This is about everything. This is about a lifetime of small moments where he made it clear that what he wants matters more than what I need. That his comfort is more important than my dignity. Inside the room, my son called out, asking if we could order pizza. I told him yes, and he cheered. The sound was so normal, so innocent, that it created a strange contrast with the conversation we were having. Nora touched my arm. Her hand was warm against my skin. What happens next? I don't know, I said. But whatever it is, it won't be my problem. I went back inside, set a calendar reminder on my phone for later that evening, and ordered dinner. The kids were excited about pizza, already arguing over toppings, pepperoni versus sausage, thick crust versus thin, normal kid stuff, normal family moment, the kind of thing that should have felt comfortable and familiar, except nothing felt normal anymore. I sat on the edge of the bed and watched them, these two small people who looked at me like I had all the answers. My daughter with her mother's eyes, my son with my stubborn chin. And I thought about what kind of example I'd been setting for them, what pattern I'd been teaching them through my silence and acceptance. That it was okay to let people walk over you, that keeping the peace was more important than standing up for yourself. That family meant accepting whatever they dished out, no matter how disrespectful, no matter how demeaning, that you should smile and nod and pretend everything was fine even when your father kicked you out of your own house so he could throw a party with his friends. I didn't want them to learn that. I didn't want them to grow up thinking that was normal, that was acceptable, that was just how families worked. I didn't want them to be like me. Or rather, I didn't want them to be like the version of me I'd been for the past 44 years. The call had been made, and everything else would follow. The pizza arrived 20 minutes later, carried by a teenager who looked bored with existence. The kids devoured it while watching some animated movie on the hotel TV, their faces illuminated by the flickering screen. Nora sat beside me on the other bed, picking at a slice but not really eating. She kept glancing at me, like she was waiting for me to explain myself further, to reveal some master plan. I didn't. Instead, I opened my laptop. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice careful, measured. "Work." "Evan, we're supposed to be on vacation." "I know," I said, typing in my password with muscle memory. "But I need to check something." She sighed, but didn't push. She'd learned over the years when to press and when to let me work through things in my own way. I pulled up the property management agreement I'd signed 3 years ago when I bought the beach house. It was 47 pages long, dense with clauses about maintenance responsibilities, rental restrictions, noise ordinances, and occupancy limits. Most people never read these things. They signed on the dotted line and forgot they existed until there was a problem. I had read it. Twice. Once when I signed it, and again 6 months later when a neighbor had a dispute about parking. I scrolled to Section 12, Guest Policies and Occupancy Limits. Any non-owner occupant staying for more than 48 hours must be registered with the association. Maximum occupancy for single-family properties is 8 persons, excluding children under the age of 5. Unauthorized gatherings exceeding this limit may result in fines, temporary access restrictions, or revocation of privileges. I highlighted the text and copied it into a new document. Then I opened Section 15, Noise Ordinances and Community Standards. Residential properties within the Coastal Association are subject to county noise regulations. Between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., noise levels shall not exceed 65 decibels as measured from the property line. Violations may result in citations issued by county compliance officers and fines determined by local statute. I copied that too. Next, I pulled up the county noise ordinances. The beach house was in a designated quiet zone. Music or gatherings exceeding 65 decibels after 8 p.m. were subject to citation. I noted the specific statute number, section 12.3.4 of the county code, and saved it in my document. Then I opened my email and searched for the correspondence I'd had with Caleb Morris 6 months ago. We'd discussed a minor issue with one of the neighbors hosting a late-night party. Someone had complained to the association. Caleb had been polite but firm. Rules were rules, and the association didn't make exceptions. Everyone had to follow the same guidelines, regardless of who they knew or how long they'd been property owners. I appreciated that. I appreciated the impartiality, the adherence to procedure. I forwarded the old email chain to myself as a reference, creating a paper trail. Nora leaned over my shoulder, her hair falling forward. "You're building a case." "I'm documenting facts." Same thing. I closed the laptop with a soft click. He broke the rules. I'm following them. That's all this is. "You really think it's that simple?" "It is that simple," I said. He assumed I wouldn't do anything because I never have before. He assumed wrong. He made a calculation based on historical data, and that data just became irrelevant. She sat back, shaking her head slowly. "He's your father." "I know." "And you're okay with this?" I looked at her, really looked at her. "Are you okay with what he did?" She hesitated, the conflict playing across her features. "No." "Then why are you questioning me?" "Because this feels cold, calculated, like you're treating him like some kind of corporate problem instead of family." "It's not cold," I said. "It's fair, and maybe that's the same thing when you've spent your whole life being treated unfairly." She didn't respond. She just stood up and walked back to the kids, sitting between them on the other bed. I stayed where I was, staring at the closed laptop, listening to the sounds of the animated movie, explosions, music, dialogue I couldn't quite make out. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from Arthur. "Hey, buddy. Thanks for being cool about this. We're having a blast. You should see the sunset from the deck. Unreal." I read it twice. The casual tone, the complete lack of awareness, the assumption that I was fine with everything, that this was just how things worked in our family, that he could take what he wanted and I'd smile and accommodate and pretend it was all okay. I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, another text. "P.S. One of the guys brought his son. Hope that's okay? Kid's a little loud, but harmless. Running around the deck like he owns the place, haha." 9 people now. 1 over the limit. Still didn't reply. I looked at the screen for a long moment, then set the phone down. The casual tone of his messages, the complete lack of awareness that he'd done anything wrong, it was exactly what I'd expected. It was exactly what had happened my entire life. He'd do something thoughtless or cruel or just plain inconsiderate, and then he'd act like it was no big deal, like I was being oversensitive for even noticing. At 7:47 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered on the second ring. "Mr. Gardeal?" "Yes." This is Lydia Frost from the County Compliance Office. We received a report regarding your property at 1247 Shoreline Drive. Is now a good time to discuss? Yes, absolutely. I stood up and walked back out to the balcony, closing the door behind me. She asked me to confirm the details I'd provided earlier. I did, carefully and precisely. She asked if I was willing to file an official complaint. I was. She explained the process. An inspector would visit the property, document any violations, and issue citations if necessary. The property owner, me, would receive a copy of the report within 24 hours. There would be fines. There might be a hearing if the citations were contested. Is there anything else you need from me? I asked. Not at this time. We'll handle it from here. You should receive an email confirmation of the complaint filing within the hour. Thank you. I hung up. Nora was watching me through the glass door again, her face unreadable in the reflected light. I opened the door and stepped back inside. What was that? Follow-up. Evan? I'm not doing anything illegal, Nora. I'm not even doing anything mean. I'm just making sure the rules are followed. The same rules that apply to everyone else in the association. The same rules Arthur would expect to be enforced if one of our neighbors was throwing an unauthorized party. And if he gets in trouble? Then he gets in trouble. She stared at me for a long moment, then looked away. I don't even recognize you right now. Good, I said, because I'm tired of being the version of me that everyone walks over. I'm tired of being the person who absorbs disrespect and calls it peace. I'm tired of teaching our kids that this is normal. I stood up, grabbed my jacket from the chair, and told the kids I was going for a walk. They barely looked up from the TV, absorbed in their movie. Nora didn't say anything, just watched me leave with an expression I couldn't quite read. I took the stairs down to the lobby, pushed through the front doors, and walked toward the marina. The air was cooler now, carrying the salt smell of the ocean mixed with fried food from the boardwalk restaurants. The sky was dark except for a few scattered stars competing with the light pollution. The boardwalk was quiet, just a handful of people strolling past closed shops and seafood stands. I found a bench near the water and sat down, the wood still warm from the day's heat. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Arthur. Some neighbors came by asking us to keep it down. A bunch of overly uptight people. I told them to relax. It's a beach town, not a library. People need to loosen up and enjoy life. I smiled. Not because I was happy, because I knew exactly what was coming next. Because those neighbors had probably called the association. Because Arthur was digging himself deeper without even realizing it. I replied, "Sounds like you're having fun." He responded immediately. "Hell yeah, you should have stayed. This is what the place is for. Living life, not worrying about rules and regulations. Your generation is too uptight." I typed back, "Enjoy it while it lasts." He sent a thumbs-up emoji. I set a reminder on my phone for 9 p.m. By then, the inspector should have arrived. By then, Arthur would know something was wrong. By then, it would be too late to undo it. The wheels would be in motion, bureaucratic, and implacable. I stayed on that bench for another half hour, watching the waves roll in under the moonlight. Somewhere down the coast, music was playing, loud enough to hear from here, loud enough to be measured in decibels, loud enough to sight. A couple walked past, holding hands, laughing about something I couldn't hear. An older man jogged by with his dog, the animal's tags jingling in rhythm with their steps. Normal evening activities. Normal lives continuing while mine shifted into something different, something I couldn't quite name yet. I thought about calling Arthur, warning him, giving him one last chance to correct course before everything came crashing down. One last opportunity to apologize, to recognize what he'd done, to show even the smallest amount of respect for my property and my family. But I didn't, because he'd had chances. Hundreds of them. Thousands, maybe. Every time he'd dismissed me, talked over me, made me feel small, those were all chances. Chances to see me as a person instead of an extension of himself. As an adult instead of a child. As someone worthy of respect instead of someone to be managed and controlled. And he'd wasted every single one. I stood up and walked back to the hotel. When I got to the room, the kids were asleep, sprawled across the bed in that boneless way kids sleep. Nora was sitting by the window, arms wrapped around her knees, looking out at the parking lot. "Did you calm down?" she asked without turning around. "I was calm the whole time," I said. She didn't believe me, but she didn't argue either. "Do you think you're doing the right thing?" she asked quietly. "I think I'm doing the only thing I can do. The only thing that doesn't involve me swallowing my self-respect one more time." "That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now." She looked at me for a long moment, her face half in shadow. "I've never seen you like this before." "Like what?" determined, unbending. Usually you're so accommodating. You're the person who makes sure everyone else is comfortable, even when it costs you. Yeah, I said. Usually. What changed? I thought about it, trying to find the right words. Nothing changed. I just stopped pretending it didn't matter. I stopped telling myself that keeping the peace was more important than keeping my dignity. I set my phone on the nightstand, climbed into bed, and waited. The calendar reminder would go off soon, and everything else would follow. At 8:53 p.m., my phone rang. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the air conditioner. Nora was pretending to sleep beside me, her breathing too deliberate to be real. The kids were actually asleep, curled up together on the other bed. I picked up the phone. Unknown number again. This is Evan. Mr. Gardill, this is Caleb Morris. I'm at your property right now. Okay. We've documented several violations. Noise levels are at 72 decibels, well above the permitted threshold. Occupancy count is 14 adults, 6 over the limit. No guests were registered with the association, and there's evidence of alcohol consumption in a common area which violates the open container policy. I sat up slowly, careful not to wake Nora. What happens now? We've issued a formal warning. If the violations aren't corrected within 30 minutes, we'll escalate to citations and potential access restrictions. Access restrictions? Temporary suspension of entry privileges until a hearing can be scheduled. It's standard procedure for repeated or severe violations. Understood. Your father is not happy. I'm sure. There was a pause. He says you didn't tell him about the rules. He didn't ask. Another pause. Okay, we'll follow up tomorrow with a full report. Do you have any questions? No. Thank you for handling this. Just doing my job. He hung up. I set the phone down and exhaled slowly. Nora rolled over, her eyes open now. He knows, she said. Yeah. What's he going to do? I don't know, but it's not my problem anymore. She stared at me. You really don't care, do you? I care, I said, but I care about the right things now. Before she could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Arthur. What the hell did you do? I didn't reply. Another text, 5 seconds later. Some guy just showed up with a clipboard and told me I'm violating rules. Did you call someone? Still didn't reply. Another text, this one all caps. Evan, answer me. I turned off my phone and set it face down on the nightstand. Nora was still watching me. You're really not going to respond? Not yet. He's going to lose it. Probably. She shook her head, half in disbelief, half in something that might have been respect. I didn't think you had this in you. Neither did he, I said. I lay back down and closed my eyes. Sleep didn't come easy, but it came. And when I woke up the next morning, the sun was streaming through the curtains and my phone was buzzing again. 17 missed texts from Arthur, 4 missed calls. I scrolled through the messages. They started angry, escalated to desperate, and ended somewhere between confused and panicked. You need to fix this. They're threatening to lock me out. I'm your father. You can't do this to me. Call me back. Call me back. Evan, please, I don't understand what's happening. The inspector said I have until noon to clear everyone out or they're filing official citations. This is ridiculous. I'm being treated like a criminal. Why aren't you answering? What did I do that was so wrong? I made coffee in the tiny hotel room machine and sat on the balcony, watching the parking lot wake up. Nora joined me a few minutes later, her hair still messy from sleep. Did you read them? She asked. Yeah. And? And nothing. Evan, he's freaking out. Good, she frowned. You're enjoying this. I'm not enjoying it. I'm just not stopping it. What's the difference? I took a sip of coffee, bitter and too hot. He spent my entire life making me feel small, making me feel like I didn't matter, like my decisions didn't count because I wasn't loud enough or tough enough or whatever enough. And I let him, because that's what you're supposed to do with family. You're supposed to forgive. You're supposed to move on. But you're not moving on. No, I said. I'm drawing a line. She sat down beside me, pulling her knees to her chest. What happens if he doesn't stop? Then the association escalates. Citations, fines, maybe a hearing. And you're okay with that? I looked at her. Are you okay with what he did to us? She didn't answer right away, then quietly. No? Then stop asking me if I'm okay with this. We sat in silence for a while. Below us, a family loaded their car, kids arguing over who got to sit in the front, normal vacation problems, normal family dynamics. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. Arthur again. I let it ring through to voicemail. 30 seconds later, another call. I declined it. A text appeared. Please pick up. I need to talk to you. I set the phone face down on the small table between us. Nora was watching me carefully. How long are you going to keep this up? As long as it takes. For what? For him to understand that actions have consequences, that he can't just do whatever he wants and expect everyone to accommodate him. He's 68 years old, Evan. You think he's going to change now? I don't care if he changes, I said. I just care that he stops. Another text came through. I ignored it. The kids woke up around 9, asking about breakfast. We took them to a diner down the street, ordered pancakes and eggs, watched them color on the paper placemats with crayons the waitress brought. Normal vacation morning, except nothing felt normal. My phone kept buzzing. Text after text. The inspector came back. They're saying I have to pay a fine. Evan, this is getting out of hand. Can we please just talk about this? I'll apologize if that's what you want. Just call me back. I didn't respond to any of them. At 10:47 a.m., my phone rang again. This time I answered. Evan, finally. Arthur's voice was strained, higher pitched than usual. What the hell is going on? You got cited for violating property rules. I know that, but why? Who called them? I did. Silence. You called them? On me? Yes. Why would you do that? Because you broke the rules. Evan, I'm your father. I know. Then why? Because you kicked us out of our own house, I said, my voice calm. Because you treated it like it was yours. Because you assumed I'd just roll over like I always do. And I decided not to. More silence. Then, you're overreacting. No, you're underestimating. Evan, listen to me. I'm done listening. If you want to stay at the house, follow the rules. If you can't do that, leave. It's that simple. You can't kick me out? I'm not. The association is. This is insane. You're being petty. I'm being fair. Fair. His voice cracked. I'm your father. Then act like it, I said, and hung up. Nora was staring at me across the table. The kids were too engrossed in their coloring to notice. Evan, she said quietly. What? That was harsh. It was honest. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but didn't. She just turned back to her coffee, her expression unreadable. My phone buzzed, a text from Caleb. Update, violation still in effect. Guests have been asked to leave. Your father is disputing the citations. We'll need your confirmation for the hearing. I replied, confirmed. Another text, this one from Arthur. Please, just talk to me. I didn't respond. An hour later, another text. I'll leave. Just call them off. I typed back, you should have left yesterday. No response. We spent the rest of the morning at the beach near the hotel, not our beach, a public one, crowded with tourists and screaming children. The kids didn't seem to mind. They built sandcastles and collected shells while Nora and I sat under an umbrella, not talking much. Around 2 p.m., my phone rang. Caleb Morris. Mr. Gardill? Yes. Just wanted to give you an update. Your father and his guests have cleared out. The property is empty now. We've documented everything for the official report. Okay. He left his contact information and asked us to tell you to call him. I told him that wasn't our responsibility, but I said I'd pass along the message. Noted. The citations will be processed through the county. You'll receive copies within 48 hours. The hearing is scheduled for next month if he chooses to contest. Thank you. No problem. And Mr. Gardill? Yeah? For what it's worth, you did the right thing. Property rules exist for a reason. I hung up and turned to Nora. He's gone. The house is empty? Yeah. She studied my face. So what now? Now we go back. Are you sure that's a good idea? It's our vacation, I said. I'm not letting him ruin it any more than he already has. We packed up the kids, checked out of the hotel, and drove back toward the coast. The afternoon sun was bright, reflecting off the water as we wound along the coastal road. The kids were excited, chattering about going back to the good beach. When we pulled into the driveway, the house looked exactly as we'd left it. Quiet, peaceful, ours. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. There were signs of the party. Empty bottles in the recycling, chairs rearranged, a faint smell of grilled meat. But nothing was damaged. Nothing was broken. Nora walked through the rooms, checking everything. He actually cleaned up. Probably figured it would help his case, I said. The kids ran straight to their room to change into swimsuits. Within minutes, they were back outside, racing toward the water. Nora and I stood on the deck, watching them play in the surf. The ocean stretched out endlessly, waves rolling in with rhythmic consistency. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Tired." "But satisfied?" I thought about it. Getting there. My phone buzzed. Another text from Arthur. "I'm at a motel 20 miles inland. Can we please talk?" I read it and put the phone in my pocket without responding. Nora saw. "You're not going to answer him at all? Not today? What about tomorrow?" "I don't know yet." She leaned against the railing. "You know he's going to keep trying, right? He's not going to just let this go." "I know. And then what?" I turned to look at her. "Then we'll deal with it, but on my terms, not his." She nodded slowly. "Okay." We stood there for a long time, watching the kids play, listening to the waves crash against the shore. The sun was starting its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. For the first time since we'd arrived, the beach house felt like ours again, but I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. The rest of the afternoon passed quietly. The kids played in the water until their fingers pruned. Nora made sandwiches for dinner, and we ate on the deck while the sun set. Normal vacation things. But underneath it all, there was a tension I couldn't shake. My phone kept buzzing. Arthur wouldn't stop. "I don't understand why you won't talk to me." "We're family. Family works things out." I said I was sorry. "What more do you want?" "This is cruel, Evan. You know that, right? I'm at the Seaside Motor Lodge on Route 7 if you change your mind. Please." I read each message and deleted it. Nora watched me do it, her expression somewhere between concern and resignation. "He's not going to stop," she said. "I know. So what's your plan?" "I don't have a plan. I'm just not engaging." "For how long?" "I don't know." She set down her wine glass. "Evan, you're going to have to deal with this eventually." "I am dealing with it, by not dealing with it." "That doesn't make sense." "It makes perfect sense," I said. "Every time I engage with him, he wins, because engagement means I'm still playing his game. So I'm not playing." "And you think that's sustainable?" "For now." She shook her head. "You're more stubborn than I thought." I learned from the best. That night, after the kids went to bed, I sat on the deck with a beer I didn't really want. The ocean was dark, waves crashing rhythmically in the distance. The moon was nearly full, casting silver light across the water. Nora joined me, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I'm thinking about how many times I've let him do this." "Do what?" "Make me feel like I don't matter, like my opinions don't count, like I'm just supposed to go along with whatever he wants because he's louder, older, more confident. And now? Now I don't feel that way anymore." She was quiet for a moment. "Do you think he's learned anything?" "I don't know. Maybe. Probably not." "Then what was the point?" I looked at her. "The point wasn't to teach him. The point was to stop letting him walk over me." She nodded slowly. "And how do you feel?" "Better," I said, "and worse." "That's honest." "Yeah." We sat in silence after that, listening to the waves. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Whatever Arthur had to say could wait. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Caleb Morris. "Mr. Gardill, official report attached. Violations confirmed, citations issued. Your father has 30 days to respond. The temporary access restriction has been lifted as of 7 a.m. today. Let us know if you need anything else." I downloaded the report. It was thorough. Timestamps, photos, witness statements from neighbors. Everything documented. Everything official. Noise violation, occupancy violation, failure to register guests. 3 separate citations, each carrying a fine. I forwarded it to my personal records and archived it. Arthur called at 9:15 a.m. This time, I answered. "Evan. Dad. Can we talk?" "We're talking now. In person. Please." I hesitated. Nora was watching me from the kitchen, her expression unreadable. "Where?" I asked. "There's a coffee shop in town. The one with the blue awning. I'm already here." "I'll think about it." "Evan." I hung up. Nora walked over. "Are you going?" "I don't know." "You should." "Why?" "Because you need closure, and so does he." "I have closure. He's the one who needs something from me." "And maybe that's exactly why you should go, to let him know, face to face, that things have changed." I thought about it. Then I grabbed my keys. "I'll be back in an hour." The coffee shop was small, tucked between a surf shop and a real estate office. Arthur was sitting at a corner table, staring into a cup he hadn't touched. He looked older than I remembered, tired, diminished. I sat down across from him without ordering anything. "Thanks for coming," he said. I didn't respond. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened. And I don't understand it. I genuinely don't understand why you did what you did." "I told you why." "You said I broke the rules, but it's your house. You could have just talked to me. You didn't have to call the authorities." "I tried talking to you. You didn't listen." "When? When did you try?" "Every time you've dismissed me. Every time you've talked over me. Every time you've made me feel like my opinions don't matter. That's me trying to talk to you, and you never heard it." He leaned back, shaking his head. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? I'm your father. I've always looked out for you." "You've always looked out for yourself," I said, "and you've expected me to accommodate that. And I did, for years. But I'm done now." "Done with what?" "Done being the person you walk over." He stared at me, his jaw tight. "You make it sound like I've been some kind of tyrant." "Haven't you?" "No, I've been a father. I've given you advice. I've pushed you to be better." "You've pushed me to be more like you," I said. "And I'm not you. I never will be. And I'm okay with that." "So this is what? Some kind of rebellion?" "You're 44 years old, Evan." "Exactly. I'm 44, not 14, and it's time you treated me like it." He looked away, out the window at the street beyond. "The citations are going to cost me over $2,000. Then you shouldn't have violated the rules." "You really think that's all this is? Rules?" "Yes." "It's not about the fact that I'm your father?" "It's about the fact that you forgot I'm your son," I said. "You forgot that I have a life, a family, a house that I worked for. And you treated all of that like it didn't matter because you wanted to have a party." "I didn't think it was a big deal." "And that's the problem. You didn't think. You just did what you wanted and expected me to deal with it." He rubbed his face, suddenly looking exhausted. "So what now? We just don't talk anymore?" "I don't know." "You don't know?" "No. I don't know what happens next. That's up to you." "Up to me? You're the one who called the cops." "I called property management. There's a difference." "Not to me, there isn't." "Then that's your problem." We sat in silence. Around us, the coffee shop buzzed with activity. Tourists ordering lattes, locals chatting by the counter. Normal life continuing while ours felt suspended. Finally, Arthur said, "I'm sorry." I looked at him. "For what?" "For making you leave, for not asking, for not seeing it from your perspective." "Okay, okay, okay. I accept your apology." "And that's it?" "What else do you want me to say?" "I want you to call off the citations." I almost laughed. "I can't do that. They're already filed, and even if I could, I wouldn't." "Why not?" "Because you need to face the consequences of your actions, just like everyone else." His expression hardened. "So this is about punishing me." "No, it's about boundaries. There's a difference." "I don't see it." "I know you don't. That's why we're here." He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I thought you'd understand. I thought we could work this out." "We are working it out, just not the way you expected." "This isn't working anything out. This is you being vindictive." "Believe what you want," I said. He stared at me for a long moment, then shook his head. "I don't know who you are anymore." "Good," I said. "That means you're finally paying attention." He walked out without another word. I sat there for a few minutes longer, watching through the window as he got into his car and drove away. When I got back to the house, Nora was on the deck with a book. "How did it go?" she asked. "About as well as expected." "Did he apologize?" "Yes." "And?" "And I accepted it, but I didn't undo the citations." "How did he take that?" "Not well." She set down her book. "Do you feel better?" "I don't know. Maybe. It's complicated." It always is with family. We spent the rest of the day trying to salvage what was left of our vacation. The kids were oblivious, still happy to be at the beach, still excited about building sandcastles and hunting for crabs in the tidal pools. But that night, after everyone else was asleep, I stood on the deck alone, looking out at the dark water. My phone buzzed. One last text from Arthur. "I'll pay the fines, but this isn't over." I read it and set the phone down. He was right about one thing. This wasn't over. But it also wasn't his decision anymore. 2 days later, on our last morning at the beach house, I got a call from Lydia Frost at the county compliance office. "Mr. Gardeal, we've received some additional complaints about your property." I sat up straighter. "What kind of complaints?" "Anonymous reports claiming the property is being used for short-term rentals without proper permits. We're required to investigate." I don't rent the property out. I understand, but we still need to send an inspector to verify compliance. Would this afternoon work? I thought about Arthur's last text. This isn't over. This afternoon is fine, I said. We'll have someone there by 3 p.m. After I hung up, Nora looked at me from across the kitchen. What was that? The county received complaints about illegal rentals. But you don't rent it out. I know. So who would report that? I didn't need to answer. We both knew. At 2:47 p.m., a white SUV with county markings pulled into the driveway. A woman in her late 30s stepped out, carrying a tablet and a camera. Lydia Frost. Mr. Gardiel? That's me. Thanks for accommodating the inspection. This shouldn't take long. She walked through the house methodically, taking photos, checking for signs of commercial activity, lockboxes, rental agreements, commercial-grade furnishings. She found nothing because there was nothing to find. Everything looks fine, she said after 20 minutes. No evidence of short-term rental activity. I'll file the report and close the complaint. Can you tell me who filed it? Anonymous complaints are kept confidential, but between you and me? She lowered her voice. We get a lot of these from family disputes, people weaponizing the system. After she left, I called Caleb Morris. Caleb, this is Evan Gardel. I just had a county inspector here investigating false rental complaints. I heard. Your father called our office this morning asking about rental violations. We told him that wasn't our jurisdiction. So he went to the county instead. Seems that way. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Can you document that he made the inquiry? Already did. It's in your property file. Thank you. I hung up and looked at Nora. He's trying to get back at me through the system. What are you going to do? I thought about it. About all the years of small humiliations. About being called too soft and corporate and his boy. About being dismissed and talked over and treated like my life was less important than his whims. About being told to get a hotel so he could throw a party in my house. I'm going to finish this, I said. The next call I made was to Caleb Morris again. Caleb, I need to understand something. The citations issued to my father, what happens if he doesn't pay them? They escalate. After 30 days, late fees apply. After 60, it goes to collections. And if there are future violations, the association can restrict his access to your property. Even though I'm the owner? If he's listed as a regular guest and continues to violate rules, yes, we can flag him in our system. Flag him. It means any future visits require pre-approval from you and from us. He can't just show up. Do it, I said. Are you sure? Absolutely. There was a pause. Okay, I'll process the request. You'll need to sign some paperwork, but we can email that over. Send it now. That evening, as we packed for the drive home tomorrow, my phone rang. Arthur, I answered. Yeah? What did you do? His voice was shaking. What do you mean? I just got a letter from the property association. They're saying I'm flagged in their system, that I need pre-approval to visit your property, that if I show up without permission, they'll call the police. That's correct. Why would you do that? Because you filed false complaints against me, because you tried to weaponize the system after I used it legitimately. I was just trying to get your attention. You had my attention. You always had my attention. You just never cared about what I had to say. Evan, this is insane. No, what's insane is thinking you can kick me out of my own house, face consequences, and then retaliate without expecting consequences for that too. I'm your father. Then be one, I said. Be someone who respects me, be someone who treats me like an adult, be someone who understands that actions have consequences. Until then, this is how it is. You're being vindictive. I'm being clear. There's a difference, and it's one you've never bothered to learn. I hung up. Nora was watching me from the doorway. Was that necessary? Yes. Evan, he tried to get me in trouble with the county. He made false reports. He wasted their time and mine. And he did it because he was angry that I held him accountable? I looked at her. So yes, it was necessary. She didn't argue. The next morning, as we loaded the car for the drive home, I stood on the deck one last time, looking out at the ocean. The water was calm, the sky clear. It should have felt peaceful, but I knew it wasn't over. At 11:37 a.m., as we were pulling out of the driveway, 3 cars pulled up to the house. I recognized Arthur's sedan immediately. Behind him were 2 of his friends from the party. I stopped the car. Arthur got out, walking toward us with that same confident stride. But there was something different about him now, something harder. Evan, we need to talk. No, we don't. You can't keep me away from this house. I'm your father. And it's my house. and you're flagged, which means you're trespassing. His friends stayed by their cars, watching uncertainly. This is ridiculous. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Who are you calling? Coastal Property Management, like I'm supposed to when there's an unauthorized visitor. His face went red. You wouldn't... The line connected. Coastal Property Management. This is Caleb. Caleb, this is Evan Gardill. I'm at my property right now. Arthur Gardill is here without authorization. He's on the restricted list. I'll send someone right away. Arthur grabbed for my phone. I stepped back. Don't, I said quietly. You're really going to do this? In front of everyone? You did this, not me. His friends were getting back in their cars now, clearly uncomfortable. Arthur, maybe we should just go, one of them started. No. Arthur's voice was loud now. No. This is my son's house. He can't keep me out. He can, actually, I said. Because it's not your house. It never was. And you never respected that. A white truck with the property management logo pulled up. Caleb stepped out, along with another man I didn't recognize. Mr. Gardill? Caleb addressed Arthur. I need you to leave the property. This is my son. This is his property. You're flagged in our system. You need to leave now, or we'll have to contact law enforcement. Arthur looked at me, his face a mixture of anger and something that might have been hurt. You're really going to let this happen? You made this happen, I said. Every choice that led to this moment was yours, not mine. The second man, security by the look of his uniform, stepped forward. Sir, you need to leave. Arthur's friends were already pulling away, clearly done with whatever this was. He stood there for another moment, staring at me, then quietly, I raised you better than this. No, I said. You raised me to accept this, and I'm done accepting it. He turned and walked back to his car. Got in. Sat there for a moment with his hands on the wheel, then he drove away. Caleb approached me. Are you okay? Yeah. If he comes back, call us immediately. I will. He nodded and left. I got back in the car. Nora was silent. The kids were confused, asking questions I didn't have good answers for yet. As we drove away from the beach house, I looked in the rearview mirror. Arthur's car was parked on the side of the road about 100 yards back, just sitting there, watching us leave. Is Grandpa in trouble? My daughter asked. Grandpa made some choices that have consequences, I said. That's all. Is he mad at you? Probably. Are you mad at him? I thought about it. No, I'm just done. We drove in silence for a while. Eventually, the kids fell asleep. Nora reached over and took my hand. How do you feel? She asked quietly. Lighter, I said. And I meant it. For the first time in my entire life, I'd stood my ground against my father. I'd drawn a boundary and enforced it. I'd refused to be dismissed, talked over, or pushed aside. I'd made one quiet call, and everything had changed.